What's going on, guys? It's Keyboarder230 and we have some very exciting news regarding Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3. So if you haven't heard as of late, Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3 has just gotten a new PV detailing its release. It's a very stunning trailer that gives us a glimpse of the vicious and terrifying march of the Colossal Titans and a cataclysm of the rumbling led by erenyeager. It's a pretty brief and out of context teaser, but wow does it sell you in an instant. I can't even describe how ecstatic I became waking up to see this PV early in the morning, and when it comes to presentation, this easily is going to be Attack on Titan's best showcase. At the end of the PV, we get some new info that the last part of this season will be split into 2 Cours, with the first being released early in March, and that's kind of a big deal. I've already seen comments that are split about the release of the final season part 3, and so I thought I'd shed some light on this subject. First and foremost, what is a Cour? Well, a Cour in anime typically refers to a batch of episodes that can range from maybe 10 to 14 episodes on an average. In a way, you can consider an anime season of 13 episodes as a Cour. Unless an anime is running as a weekly show like Dragon Ball Super did, for instance, this is more or less how an anime season is divided, even if the Cours run back to back, like how My Hero Academia is releasing its second Cour at the moment. So why is that such a big deal for Attack on Titan? As it turns out, Shingeki no Kyojin's manga is 139 chapters long, and with the final season part 2's finale, we have just crossed chapter 130, which means there should only be 9 chapters left to adapt from the manga. Now, if we were to judge the Cours as being about 10 episodes long each, then we're looking at an estimate of 20 episodes to adapt those final chapters, which is quite a lot. But let's start to break this whole thing down, and maybe it'll start making some sense. Okay, so I've heard that there are people complaining that this final season has been padded out for far too long, and that it's getting ridiculous at this point. But in actuality, I think that this kind of topic is overblown. There's lots of better videos out there that have talked about the subject, but to give some of you a brief summary, Attack on Titan was first adapted by MAPPA Studios, who animated all the way until season 3 of the anime and chapter 90 of the manga. MAPPA Studios had then announced, in the same month, July 2019, that Attack on Titan was going to be heading into its final season. I ain't no wizard when it comes to an anime's release schedule, but that is a very bold statement to make whenever the manga had yet to conclude and was still developing the War for Paradise arc before the rumbling had even started to take off. MAPPA then decided that they would not be the ones to animate the next big season. After many studios had declined to take over MAPPA's big shoes, Studio MAPPA decided to work on Attack on Titan's 4th season with a very short production schedule, thus leading to lots of quality inconsistencies in the final season part 1. This, and the change in art style and direction, had left people clamoring for MAPPA to come back, as the season was having a very rough time, especially when you compare the anime to the promotional trailer that released prior. But it should be common knowledge now that the trailer that was produced was actually not done by MAPPA Studios, but was only promotional footage that just featured MAPPA's name. MAPPA had to use the tagline, as that is what was advertised, and so the past couple of years of complaining that the final season is being dragged out and milk is just old and stupid at this point. Perhaps if things were different, the anime could have gone with 5 or possibly even 6 seasons, depending on how they wanted to divide it, with either of the last 2 options being called the final season, and that would have made this whole argument non-existent. Whether it was for hype advertisement, or that the studio just had no idea how massive the manga's ending content was going to be, it is what it is, and I see these complaints as nothing more but attention seeking. Going back on track, it'd be very interesting to know how many episodes would be in each Cour, as 20 or so episodes for 9 chapters does seem odd at first, but we have to realize that Attack on Titan's final battle is massive. The amount of things all happening at once is quite a challenge and a half, and I don't doubt for a fact that any animation studio would have had their work cut out for them for this grand finale. Personally, I feel there is no way that the anime would be able to tell its last few chapters in the span of just 9 to 10 episodes, but anything past a 12 episode count is still left up to debate. I don't see why there's some who believe for a fact that they're only going to be 2 very long episodes. But I can see this realistically being about 15 episodes long. But either which way, it is important to address the main obstacle we have to bear in mind when it comes to the rumbling, and that's pacing. Pacing in an anime is the most vital and essential element to a successful adaptation, and it's all in the fine details. A manga is a set of dynamic still images that are translated through a basis of emphasis and framing. A heavy kick in a manga, more or less, is the initial wind-up and the impact thereafter. A heavy kick in anime has a lot more to convey. Not only are we seeing the initial wind-up, we are also seeing a sense of speed, direction, and fluidity before the impact occurs, which is sometimes accompanied by a follow-up motion thereafter. Turning a single manga panel into animation is much more difficult than some would imagine. Take for instance the pacing of the Colossal Titans. Are they marching pretty fast and causing mayhem in an instant, such as there's no way to be stopped without plot convenience? Or are they marching with a slow and horrifically lingering sense of impending doom that's impossible to escape, but does have the chance to be challenged? It seemed like you'd have the answer right away, but now let's add dialogue and music into the mix. At one point you ask yourself, what scene or scenes should take up the most time? What kind of pace would be too fast to comprehend? And what kind of pace would be too slow that it becomes a slugfest and lessens the dramatic weight of what's happening on screen? At what moment do you break with an eye catcher? What's the most significant moment to end the episode on? And to an extent, how much content of the manga is being covered to get to that juicy cliffhanger? These are all very crucial questions directors, storyboard artists, and other supervisors for the anime have to think about. There's more than one way a single scene can play out, so much as there's people who read the manga at a slower pace in comparison to speed readers who flip through the pages at a glance. How do you interpret the speed in which a couple of panels play out if everybody reads at different speeds, let alone whole pages or a whole chapter? And remember, where one manga chapter ends might not be where an episode of an anime ends, as both have different release standards as to what makes a good stopping point. And with all of this in mind, it's still just the tip of the iceberg of what goes into a single episode. And yes, all of these questions become exponentially more difficult when you have to determine the beginning and end of a season. And that's without accounting for the idea of whether the animators will have enough time to flesh out these ideas and storyboards, or if they are being pushed out at an alarming rate that has a high chance of crash and burn to the quality of the episode or episodes at hand. All I'm trying to get at is manga and anime have very different styles of delivering the narrative. A manga typically lets the art speak for itself, but through great detail also sparks the imagination of the reader, driving them to come up with their own interpretation of the panels, character voices, and sound effects. If you were to give a blind reader a manga to read, and then have them watch the anime of the same franchise after some time, chances are their interpretation wouldn't match with what they had considered when reading the manga, whether that's a good or bad thing. And if you were to do the opposite and watch the anime before reading the manga, then chances are you'd just be picturing what you heard from the anime based on what you remember them sounding like. It harkens back to an argument I made about English dubs versus subs in one of my discussions regarding JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In that, I described that it's all a matter of perspective and familiarity, one that relates back to the mere exposure effect, which indicates that people often develop preferences for things based on what they are most familiar with. Okay, that's good and all, but what does this matter in the grand scheme of things? For starters, it means that MAPPA Studios is doing their very best to deliver a fantastic finale for such a beloved, long-running series, and people are criticizing them for trying to go above and beyond for fans. Animation is a long and strenuous process that takes many talented staff to produce and is above all very expensive no matter the series. I do believe there are going to be some very interesting changes and additional scenes that are going to further enhance the rumbling and the ending. And sure, for all we know, this could be because the anime is going to get its own original ending. But at the bottom line, let's not forget that these last batches of episodes are going to be absolutely wild, and I'd rather not have another rushed adaptation like the final season part 1. Splitting the last batch of episodes into 2 cours is the best solution for making the anime stand out compared to the manga. It should be quite clear that MAPPA does not want the anime to just adapt the manga, but make it better. I have no doubts that the rumbling is going to be extended and is going to let the weight of each scene play out in a flashy way. And if we don't want the anime to feel rushed, like some may argue for the manga, then why are we giving the studio crap for extending the final chapters into 2 cours? I know we are all very anxious to see the best moments animated and which ending MAPPA decides to go with, but we can wait. Remember how season 2 came out 4 years after the first season? This whole situation is not even comparable to that at all. I'd be okay with waiting until the fall for the second cour, because at that point, I know that the finale is going to be delivered in the best way it can be. If MAPPA wasn't confident in their adaptation of these last 9 chapters, they wouldn't be going above and beyond like this. And as a matter of fact, there originally wasn't going to be 2 cours, but MAPPA ultimately decided to push it out in 2 cours instead of releasing it all in March because they wanted extra time to polish the finale's quality. Let's take a read from MAPPA's official Twitter. We are pleased to announce that the TV animation Shingeki no Kyojin, the final season, will be broadcast in 2 parts, the first part and the second part. The first part will be broadcast on NHK General at midnight on March 3rd, and the second part will be broadcast in 2023. We sincerely apologize to everyone for making you wait for a while before the completion of the film. The production committee and everyone involved will continue to do our utmost to deliver a work that lives up to everyone's expectations. We appreciate your understanding in this matter. Props to MAPPA. They really are goated, and they don't deserve any of the hate that they are getting from this decision. If you guys want to have another 7 Deadly Frames incident, be my guest. Go ahead and watch that kind of crap and leave Attack on Titan alone. And watch, it's going to be some of those people who are sharing these grievances that are going to be praising the animation of the first and second cour after the fact as if they were never part of that problem. It happens quite often these days. People complain about dumb things, make a big fuss, and then cherish it after some time has passed. I don't know what it is, but there's always the trend of hating what was loved and loving what was hated. They just have a passion to be the opposite, switching back and forth to create buzz for no reason. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I'm not saying this is always the case. I've seen quite a number of hot takes on both sides, but they have their reasons and stick to their opinion most of the time, and I respect that. But I have seen that kind of wishy-washy thinking happen before. But with all that said, I think it's time we start winding down and close out on a good note. I have full confidence in MAPPA to make these last 9 chapters monumental. People love to complain, and some cry even when they're being fed by the bottle. But it's alright, because at the end of the day, we're finally going to see one of the best animes come to a close in such a stunning and captivating way, regardless of the choice of ending. This truly is going to be a very special time for Attack on Titan fans, especially for those who have followed the series from the very beginning. No matter how it ends, let's just cherish the memories and fantastic storytelling that has led us to these defining and iconic moments. And guys, if you want something to hate, go hate Velma instead. P.S. Stop hate watching, you fools. There are other ways.
Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. I have made a video recently discussing about Daredevil and She-Hulk before this. but I haven't really done very much discussions lately, and so I just wanted to say that I am working on new videos that are going to be more discussion based. I did take a break from doing them to focus a little bit more on the gaming, but now I really want to bring this back because they're quite a lot of fun to make. And there's just been a lot of things I've been itching to say, and truth be told, I've always had a hard time expressing what I'm thinking, even if it's already written out for me on a script. But this probably has been the best discussion video that I have been able to put together. I'm usually a lot more quiet and reserved to myself when it comes to these videos, but I thought I'd try and bring a little bit more oomph to it. Did I deliver? Let me know down below. And if you want to stay updated, feel free to give me a follow down the social media linked in the description, or you may also check out the community page where I'm also posting updates about the channel and new future videos. But until then guys, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to share the video out, and let's hope for the best for final season part 3 of Attack on Titan. Alrighty guys, I'll see you in the next video. Take care!
これが治癒